So today we are reviewing not one, not two, but three action figures, all three of which are part of Todd McFarlane's DC Multiverse line of figures. The figure to the far left is Batman from DC's Rebirth continuity. The figure in the middle is Robin, aka Damian Wayne, the fourth Robin, from DC's Infinite Frontier series of comic books, which is part of the DC Rebirth continuity. And the figure to the far right is Clayface from DC's Rebirth continuity. So, as you can see, the figures come with a number of accessories. For two of the figures, the accessories are in their hands in addition to being in front of them, and for one of the figures, the accessories are simply in front of them. Now, for Batman, we have this really cool grappling hook, and we have his stand, which is standard for all DC Multiverse figures. In fact, for all Todd McFarlane figures, as far as I know. And we have this collectible card, which we'll take a good look at in a moment. For Robin, aka Damian Wayne, we have this sword, also a stand, and also a card. And for Clayface, we simply have a stand and a card. It would have been nice if he came with some alternate hands that were, sort of sculpted to look like weapons, which is, akin to what he does in the animated series in the comics. He morphs his hands into axes and other types of blades. Pretty freaking cool, but we don't get that with this toy. But hey, still a very cool toy nonetheless. So let's take a look at the collectible cards that come with these figures. So first one that we're going to look at is Batman's collectible card. So let's alter the focus. As you can see, here's a really cool picture of the figure. Some very cool bright lighting. And the text on the bottom says Batman DC Rebirth. And on the back, we have a little brief sort of description of Batman. You can pause the video to read it if you'd like. And that's that. And for Damian Wayne, we have this cool photo of the figure. Very cool. And beneath the photo, it says Robin, Infinite Frontier. And we have this nice description of the character on the back. You can pause the video to read that if you'd like. Pretty cool. And for Clayface, we have this really cool photo of the figure with these glowing eyes. It would have been nice if the figure had glowing eyes, but Todd McFarlane likes to keep his figures, at a certain price point. He wants them to be affordable, so unfortunately, we don't get things like what you see in this photo. Glowing eyes. That would have been really neat, but it would have probably made the figure $60, and that's beyond what Todd McFarlane would like to charge for his mega figures. So let's take a look at the text on the back. You can pause the video if you'd like to read it. It's a nice description of Clayface. Which Clayface is this? This is Basil Carlo. It's not the Clayfish from the animated series. I believe his name is Matt Hagen. Correct me if I'm wrong. This is a different Clayface with whom I'm not familiar. What's that again? Basil Carlo. And that's that for the accessories. Actually, before I wrap up this section of the review, let me just give you guys a close-up look at the weapons that come with these figures. So here's Batman's grappling hook. As you can see in his hand, pretty neat. Pretty cool grappling hook. And here's a good look at Damian's sword. Pretty neat. Quite a long sword. And Clayface doesn't come with any weapons or alternate hands, which is, once again, as already stated, pretty unfortunate. So now let us measure the heights of these figures. These figures are in 1/10 scale, which is also known as 7-inch scale. So yeah, let's take a look at their heights. This figure of Batman is, let's see, he seems to be exactly 7 inches tall, which is pretty interesting. Batman is 6'2". That's 72 plus 2, that's 74 inches. 74 inches divided by 10 would be 7.4 inches, which would be a little less than 7.5. So this figure is a little shorter than it should be, but it's fine. Pretty good. It is noticeably smaller than some of the other figures of Batman by Todd McFarlane, which I will show you later on in this review. So let's take a look at the height of Robin. Robin is, let's see, 6.5 inches. Now, when I looked up the height of this Robin, Damian Wayne, I got a number of different heights. I believe I got 4 feet 9 inches, as well as 5 feet 2 inches, and another height that I can't recall, but 5 feet 2 was the tallest. Because he is a young boy, he is a teen, and he's still growing. So 5 feet is 60 inches, plus 2 inches, that's 62 inches. 62 divided by 10 is 6.2 inches, right? So once again, this is what, 6.5? Yeah, so that's a little taller than it should be, but once again, it's in the ballpark, so I guess it's fine. One thing that's interesting about this figure of Damian, as well as the other figure of Damian by Todd McFarlane, is that the proportions don't really lend themselves to, scaling well with other figures in photographs. I mean, if you look at his head, it's way larger than Batman's head, which is, kind of strange, considering that he's just a kid. Now, admittedly, this figure of Batman is smaller than most other figures of Batman by Todd McFarlane, especially the head. But even if you were to compare this figure of Damian as well as the other figure of Damian by Todd McFarlane, the heads are still much larger than those of other figures in the DC Multiverse line, which is kind of strange because he's a kid and most of the other ones are of adult characters. So keep that in mind. So let's move him to the side. And now let's measure the height of Clayface. Now, Clayface comes up to be, what's that, 8.5 inches? I'm not sure how Clayface is supposed to be in terms of height. I'm not sure what his exact height is according to Canon. Let me look that up. Let me look up his height. Give me a moment. Should have done that before I started the review. Slipped my mind. So let's see. Clayface height. Here we go. Basil Carlo, dc.fandom.com. But this is from the Arkham verse. He's 8 feet 2 inches tall according to this. So that would translate to, let's see, 8 feet. That's 96 inches plus 2. That's 98 inches. If you divide that by 10, he should be over 9 inches tall in this scale. So this figure is a bit shorter than it should be according to the height that I just looked up. But hey, he still looks big compared to most other figures in this line, except for Titan Joker. Titan Joker he's on another level. In fact, let me bring him in. This isn't the comparison section of the video, but I just want to show you guys how tall Titan Joker really is compared to Clayface. I mean, he's so tall he doesn't even really fit in the frame. And I'm recording this with a wide angle lens, so the range on this lens is pretty large, and he still can't fit in the frame. Yeah, the Titan Joker is on its own level, figuratively and literally speaking. I mean, he's a freaking super giant. I wonder if he's taller than a Violator. We'll check that out later in the video. So let me put him away. And that's it for this section of the review, the scaling section. So now we're going to check out the articulation of these figures. So let me put Clayface to the side as well as Robin. And let's bring Batman to the center. Maybe I should bring him closer to the camera, adjust the focus. So let's see what we've got here. 360 degrees of rotation. You can bend his head to the sides by that much, so quite a bit. Very impressive. You can bend down his head, that is, by that much. I've seen better on other figures, but that's decent. He can look up by a really large degree. That's more than decent. That's excellent. And that's it for the head. Let's check out the shoulders. Now we have 360 degrees of rotation. There is a bit of resistance caused, I don't know if that's caused by the cape or by the joint just being stiff, but there is some resistance when you try and, here we go. When you do it in that direction, there isn't much resistance, but going backwards, yeah, there was a bit initially, but it's gone now. So I guess I just had to loosen that joint. So 360 degrees of rotation. Oh, make sure I'm not blocking the lighting. As you can see, on both arms, pretty good. We have bicep swivel. Actually, before I even get to that, let me see how far we can bend the arms up. This is as far as you can bend the arms up. The articulation is limited by the cape, unfortunately. So just keep that in mind. If you want to bend his arms up with the pits facing up, the armpits, this is as far as you can go because of the cape. Normally, on most of the figures in this line, you can bend the arms upwards, or should I say rotate the arms upwards, so that they are completely parallel to the sides of his torso. But you can't do that with this figure because the cape really hinders the articulation, unfortunately. So just keep that in mind. We do have bicep swivel, as you can see. You should be able to see the cut of the joint there. So let me rotate that for you. As you can see, we have bicep swivel. Let me hold this in place. So yeah, we've got bicep swivel. We've got it on both arms. You hold this one in place. There we go, as you can see. So yeah, there's bicep swivel. Let's see how much range we have at the elbows. We have double joint, so we have a lot of range. That's how the elbow joints look. Not the best, but still, they look decent and you get quite a bit of range. Let's take a look at the hands, at the wrists. This is the default position. Now, as you can see, this part of the gauntlet extends over the bottom of the hand, or should I say over the wrist. So you can't really bend his wrist backwards if you have, the back of his hand against this part of the gauntlet. If you have it against another part, then yeah, you get quite a bit of range, but that's obviously strange looking. You would typically have it like this, so keep in mind that the articulation is limited by this part of the gauntlet that extends over the wrist. Now if you want to bend his hand inward, you get that much range, which is pretty good. So obviously it's going to be the same case for this hand, but I'm still going to demonstrate it for you. Just make sure I have it oriented correctly on the peg. There we go. So this is the default position. Can't really go back. Oh, okay, you can go back a bit, even against that. So hold on, that's the default position, I would say. And if you want to bend back, you get that much range. If you want to bend inwards or downwards, you get that much range. So pretty respectable. Let me try the other one yet again. That's the default position. If you want to go up, you don't really get any range on the left hand for some reason relative to the right hand when bending in the same direction. I guess that has to do with the way the hand is sculpted. I don't know. But downward you get that much range. So quite a bit of range downward. But when bending upward, there we go. I just had to push a little more. That's what the problem was. So this is the default. And that's it. That's it when it's bent backwards or upwards, whichever term you like to use. And that's downwards. So that's the default. That's upwards. Right there. And this is, the default once again. And that's downwards. So quite a bit of range, but just keep in mind that this part of the gauntlet is going to sort of get in the way a bit. So now let us check out the diaphragm joint. As you can see, we can go back by quite a bit. We can go forward, So let me just orient this correctly. That's the diaphragm joint. Can go back by quite a bit, forward by quite a bit, so that's pretty good. To the sides by quite a bit, and it's quite flexible overall. Not much, if any, resistance, which is pretty good. Check out the waist. We can bend them to the sides at the waist by the degree that you're seeing right now. We can go backwards by that much, forward. Make sure you can see that. Default forward, not by much going forward, but there is some range. Like, I would say this is the default position. Yeah, not by much. This is it when it's backwards, but when you, relative to the default position, you don't get, it doesn't seem like you get any range. Yeah, you don't get much. To the sides, you get that much. And if you want to rotate 360 degrees, you can do that. So let's check out the legs. The legs at the hips, I'm going to bend forward. You get this much range, but the legs do protrude to the sides. They don't go perfectly straight forward. If you want to bend his legs backwards, you can do that, but they protrude to the sides. They don't go straight back. Just keep that in mind. If you want to check out, let's check out the knees. Double jointed knees, which is the case for pretty much all Todd McFarlane figures. Pretty good. Now let's check out the ankles. So this is the default position of the feet at the ankles, right? Default position. Upwards by that much, upwards by that much. Default position, downwards by that much, downwards by that much. So quite a bit of range. So overall, the articulation is quite good on this Batman figure. And I should mention, I didn't mention this earlier, but the sculpt of this Batman figure is really, really good. I would say this and the figure of Batman from the Three Jokers wave, they're the best Todd McFarlane Batman figures that we've gotten. They look really, really good. I'll show the Three Jokers Batman later on in the video in the comparison section. So let's put Batman away for now. Well, not away, but to the side. Back here, let's bring in Damian Wayne. So now we're going to check out his articulation. 360 degrees of rotation. Can bend his head to the sides by that much, which is a pretty large degree. He can look down by that much, which is decent, but I've seen better. He can look up by that much, which is good, but I would imagine you could get greater range if this weren't in the way, the hood of his cape. It does hinder it a bit, but still, that's pretty good. Now, as you can see, the cape, should I say the shoulders of the cape, or whatever part of his costume you would call this, they hinder the mobility of his arms, unfortunately. You can't really extend his arms up to the degree that you would if this weren't structured this way. This literally does prevent you from, you know, bending or lifting his arms up any more than what you see, unfortunately. Now let's check out the shoulders. We do have 360 degrees of rotation. Do we? I can't really see what's turning. Is that the bicep or is that the shoulder? I can't really maneuver the shoulder because I just don't have the clearance for my finger, so I can't even comment on that. But I would imagine that the shoulders, the arms at the shoulders can rotate 360 degrees in the socket, but I can't demonstrate that for you, unfortunately. But we do have bicep swivel, as you can see, on both sides, which is really nice. 360 degrees, obviously. Let's see. We have double joints. Yep, we have double joints. So, quite a bit of range. Let me put the sword down. Double joints. So we have more than 90 degrees of bend at the elbows. Let's take a look at the wrists. You see how the hand is oriented on the peg. Oops. My bad. Well, that's the point where it bends. Let's see. Let's get that back in there. Okay, so this is the default position. If we want to bend, we get that much range. Now, I would like to reorient the hand on the peg, but as you can see, when I try and pull the hand off the peg comes out, so can't really do that. Let me try it with this hand. Okay, there we go. There we go. So let's see. This is the default position of the hand. Inwards, that's as much as you're getting. Outwards or backwards, whichever term you like to use, that's as much as you're getting. So not as much as you get on other figures, but there is some range there. Now, I don't know if this is going to be an issue with all units, but with my unit, as I just showed you, whenever I try and take the hand off the peg comes out, so I can't reorient the hand on the peg in the correct position. But it's not something I lose sleep over. I don't really care. Now, I don't know if there's a diaphragm joint underneath, but there doesn't seem to be. This outer layer is a soft plastic, and there's some joint in there, but this outer layer hinders the mobility of the middle of the torso, so forget about it. There's seemingly no diaphragm joint. Or is there? I think there is a diaphragm joint in there. There is, but this outer layer pretty much hinders your ability to lock it in place if you bend it at the diaphragm joint, unfortunately. As for the waist, we have 360 degrees of rotation. We can bend his legs forward. Jesus. Yeah, I forgot about this. Whenever you bend his legs too far forward or backwards, they pop out of the sockets. So not much range forward or backwards, unfortunately. To the sides, you get quite a bit of range. So yeah, we get this much range when bending his legs to the sides. We have double joints, which isn't surprising. Double joints. And let's take a look at the ankles. This is the default position of the feet. Up by that much. Default. Down. And of course we have toe hinges. Let me bend the toe hinges. You get that much range. So now we're going to check out the articulation of the mega figure, Clayface. Now this figure is pretty, I don't want to say heavy, but it does have some nice heft to it. It has a good amount of weight for its size, so it feels like something premium. And it's made out of a very, strong plastic, but it doesn't feel as if it's solid plastic, meaning if I were to do a cross section of one of the arms, I don't feel like the arms would be completely solid plastic. I feel like it would be a bit hollow on the inside. That's how parts of the figure feel. Otherwise, I think it would have been just way too heavy. Now, the joints feel, pretty, I would say, rigid, but not too rigid. Rigid enough such that when you, position the limbs at certain points, they don't just fall out of that position. They stay in that position for the most part, as you can see here. Not so much. So it's a pretty well constructed figure. So you get some pretty good articulation out of it, considering, how it's shaped and how large it is. So let's go ahead and demonstrate that. First thing with the head. The head can rotate to the sides, as you can see. You can do it in this direction as well. It does feel a bit unnatural, to be honest with you, but it is possible to rotate the head to the sides. You can't really lift his head up or put his head down, so it is limited in that sense, in that regard. The jaw is articulate, which is really cool. So that's it for the head. As for the arms, we do have 360 degrees of rotation at the shoulders, as you can see. So that's pretty nice. So I can bend the arms in to that degree, lift them up to that degree. And they do feel as if they're ratcheted, so there are a number of increments by which you can sort of bend them up or bend them down or outward or inward, whichever term you'd like to use. So that's pretty neat. There is no bicep swivel. We have articulation at the elbows. We obviously don't have double joints. We have some pretty limited articulation at the elbows, but pretty good considering how large the figure is. You can see the cut for the joint right there if you look closely. So we can bend inward by that much, outward by that much, and that's pretty much all we're getting. Let's see the other side. So this is as far out as it goes. Now inward, I guess it depends on how I bend the arm. So this is as far out as it goes. And that's as far in as it goes. So out, in, and that's that. So pretty limited, but decent enough. As for the hands at the wrists, we do have joints, as you can see, the cutouts. I haven't really used them. There is a bit of resistance. They're kind of stiff. So let's see what we got. This is as far back as the hands go. Now let's try bending them in. I don't want to break the figure, but it doesn't. There we go. So that's in, and that's out. Let's try this side. In, out. Now let's take a look at the diaphragm joint, or at least what appears to be a diaphragm joint. I mean, there is a diaphragm section. As you can see, there's a partition here, but it isn't really much of a joint, is there? Actually, there is. So, yep. This is how much range you get on the diaphragm joint. Can't really turn past that point it fills. What about in the other direction? That's about as far as it goes. Can you bend to, let me see, can you bend backwards? Yeah, you can. Wow, that's pretty good. Move his arm back so you can get a good look at that. So there is some articulation there. It's pretty nice. It's pretty rough, but it is there. Let's see, can we bend them to the sides? There we go. So you have a bit of articulation, you know, at the diaphragm. It's not perfect, but it is there, considering how big and bulky and sort of asymmetrical the body of this figure is. It's pretty decent. Let me just tuck this lower section in. So let's take a look at the waist. Yeah, this is the waist joint. We don't get 360 degrees of rotation, but we do get quite a bit. I'd say about 90 degrees in both directions. So that's really good considering how bulky this figure is. Let's take a look at the legs. They can bend forward by this much. Pretty good for a figure this large. They can bend backwards by this much. So you can put this figure in some pretty interesting poses despite how large and asymmetrical it is. What about the knees? Let's take a look at the knees. They are not double joints. They are single joints, and that's as much range as you get. Which isn't all that spectacular, but hey, it's better than nothing. And you get no other articulation on the figure. There's no articulation at the ankles or on the feet. The feet are pretty much just stumps. But hey, considering how bulky this figure is, I'm impressed. I would say the articulation is pretty good. So now we're going to compare these figures to other figures by Todd McFarlane that are part of the DC Multiverse line. But before we do so, I just want to remove Clayface from the frame because he's so large, he will limit the number of other figures that I can bring into the frame. And because he's so large, we already know that he's going to be larger than most of the other figures anyway, so we don't really need to compare him to the other figures to see how they scale with him and Batman and Robin. So we're just going to leave Batman and Robin in the frame, and we're going to remove Clayface. So let me just bring him out of the frame. So the first figure that we're going to bring into the frame is Three Jokers Batman. Three Jokers Batman is, well, it seems to me, is tied with this Rebirth Batman as being the best Batman by Todd McFarlane in terms of the sculpt and articulation, but mainly, you know, the sculpt. It just looks amazing. It's like a classic Batman costume. In fact, it is the classic Batman costume. This is the classic Batman emblem, oval with, you know, a yellow background to the bat symbol. Very classic. The only thing that differentiates it from the classic look is the color of the trunks. The trunks are gray, whereas classically the trunks are black. But if you want to make them look completely classic, you can just paint the trunks black yourself. Very simple to do. But yeah, so these two Batman figures that you see on the screen are considered the most iconic figures of Batman by Todd McFarlane. They're considered the best in terms of the sculpts, and they do look amazing. But as you can see, the Three Jokers one is bigger, it's taller and brawnier, it's just a bigger figure, which is pretty interesting and somewhat strange. I mean, they're technically the same continuity, you know, so there's no reason why one should be bigger than the other. But with Todd McFarlane, he allows the artists who sculpt these figures to, you know, take liberties with how they do so. He doesn't set these rigid, you know, restrictions on them in regard to what they can do. So you wind up with differences like this, but hey, it is what it is. I like them both. I think they're both incredible. So we're going to also bring in Rebirth Nightwing. This is Rebirth Nightwing. And we're going to bring in Rebirth Damian Wayne Robin. So that's how he scales. Get him standing up straight. And we're also going to bring in, I'm not going to lie, that leg looks kind of strange when you turn it outwards. The way his knee is turned inward, it looks kind of, it looks unnatural. Hopefully this looks a bit better. Okay, so there's that. As soon as I can get him to stand up straight. Okay, there we go. I can't get his feet perfectly flat, but it's kind of bothering me. I should just leave it. So, there's that, and here is Batgirl. I believe this is Batgirl from the Three Jokers series, the Three Jokers wave, I should say. So there she is. And who else can I fit in here? Here is Three Jokers Red Hood. His feet are ratcheted, so it's very hard to get him to stand up perfectly straight, unfortunately. There we go. So, Three Jokers, Red Hood. There he is. Very neat. So I'm going to take these guys out now. And let's see. Here is, I believe this is New 52 Red Hood. I don't believe it's Rebirth Red Hood. It could be, but I think it's New 52 Red Hood. From the New 52 continuity, which precedes Rebirth. So, there he is. Who else can I bring in? Here is Joker, the criminal. Here's his cane. Just doesn't look right when he doesn't have his cane. So there he is with his cane. 3 Jokers. Yeah, this is 3 Jokers, Joker the criminal. Or should I say Joker the criminal, which is from the 3 Jokers wave. And here is Joker the clown. And get him. And here is Joker the comedian, which is revealed in the 3 Jokers comic book series to be the original Joker. Well, it's strongly implied that he's the original Joker anyway. Who else is there? I guess I can bring in the Arkham Asylum Batman. Kind of random. Arkham Asylum Batman. As you can see, he's bigger than Rebirth Batman as well. In fact, let me put them right next to each other so you can really see. He's not significantly bigger. He is a bit taller, and he's wider though. He definitely has a larger, chest and wider shoulders. There's that. Obviously, his ears extend further up. They're taller. He looks a bit brawnier in the upper body, but overall, he's about the same height. He's only slightly taller, I would say. Here is Todd McFarlane's Joker, but not from the DC Multiverse line. This is from the Mortal Kombat line. Oh, let me fix the focus. Forgive me about that. There we go. He appears to be taller. He is a bit taller. He has a bigger head as well. He's definitely taller. There's that. So let me put him back over here. Let me take these guys out. You can see that there. Yeah, these Jokers are taller than this Batman. Just wanted you to see that clearly. Let me put this back in his hand. So who else can I bring into the frame? I'm going to bring in the Dark Knight Returns wave. So we've got this Batman for the Dark Knight Returns, Frank Miller's Dark Knight Returns. Holy crap. Sorry about that. Here is Superman from the Dark Knight Returns wave. Here is Carrie Kelley, aka Robin from the Dark Knight Returns wave. Wow, she's really small. Carrie Kelley is drawn to be pretty small, pretty diminutive, so that's just how she looks. Yeah. Let me bring these guys closer to the front so you can get a better sense of how they scale with one another. Because the camera does distort a bit. So, there you go. Obviously, the Dark Knight Returns Batman is much brawnier. Much bigger Batman. Look at the arms on this guy. Jesus. His arms are huge. It's a colossal Batman. Let's take a look at Superman. How does he compare? Much larger. Just colossal. So yeah, that's that for the Dark Knight Returns wave. Let me bring out the Dark Knight Returns Armored Batman. Give me a second to find him. Here he is. As you can see, he is colossal. Wow, he's much larger. Like, look at this. This is crazy. Look at that. Even if you were to take him out of the armor, you get the impression that he'd still be bigger. I mean, he's like a foot taller. Equivalently, if we were to scale him up, he's a foot taller than this Batman on the right. I mean, look at that. Looks incredible. So that's that for the Dark Knight Returns wave. Here is Batman from, I believe, Death Metal or Metal. There is a series of comic books called Dark Knight's Metal and another series called Dark Knight's Death Metal. So, yeah, as you can see, it's the same costume, but it's just rendered differently in terms of the artistry. And this one is a bit damaged. So as you can see on the ab section and the arms, there's a bit of damage. But yeah, the proportions are very different. The colors are slightly different. It's a different shade of gray. So it just looks quite different, even though it's the same costume. But that's due to different artists sculpting these figures, as well as different artists drawing these figures on the page. You know, the one on the left is based on Rebirth Batman, as drawn by different artists who drew the iterations of Batman on which this one was sculpted. So you wind up with two very different looking figures, even though they're the same Batman from the same continuity, just like different series within the continuity. So let's put him away. Let's try out the Batman Who Laughs. Take a look at that. Taller, a bit taller. Is he? No, they're about the same height. They're about the same height. So let me put him away. Let's see. We have Hazmat-Suit Batman. This is the gold label edition, so it does light up. Let me hit the button. There we go. Very cool effect. I haven't really taken any photos of this figure yet. I've had it for about a month. Really should take some photos of it. It's a really nice looking figure. But as you can see, scales pretty well. They're about the same height, it seems. The proportions seem pretty similar. So yeah, let me turn that light off. There we go. And we're going to bring out, as soon as I put this in his hand, I'm going to bring out Batman from Dark Knight's Metal or Dark Knight's Death Metal. I can't remember which one. Here he is. Get his ankle straight. Very cool figure of Batman. Very, very cool. You get some pretty rare figures of Batman with Todd McFarlane. He doesn't focus solely or mainly on, you know, the mainstream traditional designs of characters. He really, you know, likes to make figures of these sort of rare, one-off, unusual takes on the characters from the page. And I understand why he does that, because with previous series of figures based on DC Comics, we usually get the same characters over and over again, or should I say the same iterations of characters over and over again. And he's just using his opportunity to make DC figures to give us, you know, figures of these characters in very unique costumes, from very unique one-off stories. So all the more to them, because I really appreciate them. This looks amazing. This is beautiful. So let's put this away. Let's bring out DarkFather from, this is either from Dark Knight's Metal or Dark Knight's Death Metal. I can't remember which one. So there's that. This is a version of Batman from an alternate universe who pretty much gained the powers and physiology of Darkseid. Pretty cool. And he is called DarkFather. As you can see, he's pretty darn tall. Oops, my bad. He's actually a Build-A-Figure. Yeah, remember, this is a Build-A-Figure. So let's bring Damian up, because we are going to compare him to King Robin, or Robin King. Can't remember the exact name. This is Robin from Dark Knight's Metal or Dark Knight Death's Metal. Sorry, Dark Knight's Metal or Dark Knight's Death Metal, one of the two. And this Robin isn't Dick Grayson or Jason Todd or Tim Drake or Damian Wayne. This is actually Bruce Wayne. In an alternate universe, Bruce Wayne becomes Robin. He never takes on the Batman persona. He just becomes Robin. So here you have it. It's a pretty cool looking figure. As you can see, the proportions are pretty similar. In fact, if I bring... Hold on a second here. Where is the other Robin figure? If I bring him back in... Yeah, I guess I was wrong. I thought that they reused the boots from this figure on this one, but they didn't. But the proportions seem sort of similar. So maybe it was the same artist who sculpted this figure here, that sculpted the Robin that I just put away. I don't know. But yeah, this is Robin King / King Robin. Can't remember the exact name. So let's put him away. Who else can we bring into the frame? Let's bring in some Rebirth characters. This is Zod from the Rebirth continuity. This is a new figure. He was released recently, like last week or so. Well, at least on Amazon he was. I know other people have had him for longer, but you know, Amazon got him just last week. There's that. So that's Rebirth Zod. As you can see, he's taller than Batman. He has a larger head. You know, this Batman is scaled kind of oddly compared to other figures. I mentioned that earlier. As you can see, yeah, he is indeed shorter. And he does have a proportionally smaller head, so it's kind of strange. So that's that. Who else is there? Oh, of course. Rebirth Superman. So Rebirth Superman and Rebirth Batman. Rebirth Superman is much brawnier, as you can see. He's huge. But they're about the same height. But yeah, the Superman figure is just much brawnier, much larger frame. So there's that. Come on, man, get back in his hand. So there's Robin. Let's see. Some other Rebirth figures. This is Solar Superman. So here he is. And we have Martian Manhunter, also from the Rebirth continuity. There he is, Martian Manhunter. Pretty neat. So let's take these guys out. Let's give you a closer look at them together. So you can see about the same height. Here is Solar Superman. Yeah, they're about the same height. But actually, no. Solar Superman is taller. Well, no, he looks to be about the same height. It's just that his eyes are higher. Kind of strange how that works, huh? They're about the same height. The shoulders look to be... Let me see. Shoulders look to be about the same height. But the heads are different sizes. The Batman figure has a smaller head. The Superman figure has a larger head. And his eyes rest higher. Could be how I have his head positioned. There's that, yeah. The camera exaggerates things. You see. But looking at it here in person, the eyes of Batman do in fact look lower than the eyes of Superman. So the proportions of the features on the face are different. Can't really tell on camera, but take my word for it. That's the downside of using an ultra-wide lens. It sort of distorts things, so things aren't represented accurately, so you have to take my word for it. Here's Lobo. Colossal figure. As you can see, much taller than Batman. Very neat. This is Lobo from the Rebirth continuity. Pretty cool. So yeah, we've gotten a lot of Rebirth figures from Todd McFarlane. So who else are we going to bring into the frame? Let's see. This is Batman from an alternate universe. He's called He's called Darn. So who else are we going to bring? So now let's bring in DawnBreaker. This is Batman DawnBreaker from an alternate universe in which Bruce Wayne gets a hold of a Green Lantern power ring, destroys the Green Lantern corpse, and does a bunch of other evil stuff. Yeah, so this is an evil Batman. And let's bring in, I believe this is Hal Jordan, Green Lantern. So we've got Hal Jordan. Let me get him to stand up. Let's see. This is John Stewart, Green Lantern. So there's that. Pretty good representation of their heights. Who else can I bring into the frame? Let's see. Guess I can bring in this guy, Superman Red Sun, an alternate version of Superman who crash lands in Russia instead of the United States. And he becomes, a representative of Russia's government. Pretty interesting story. So there you have it. So let me take these guys out. Let's see. Here is Batman from Detective Comics 1000. Here's Superman from, I forgot. Action Comics 1000. Action Comics 1000, Superman, Detective Comics 1000, Batman. Yeah, these, I believe, are the first two figures released by Todd McFarlane as part of the DC Multiverse line. Correct me if I'm wrong. Let me bring them up closer to the camera so you can get a better sense of how they scale. A much simpler sculpt on this one. A much smoother, less definition, but still pretty neat. And it looks more cartoonish as well. This one looks a bit more realistic in terms of the detail. This is how they measure up to each other. Pretty cool. Let's bring in Superman. This Superman seems like it scales better with this Batman than the Rebirth Superman. This one is much less brawnier than the Rebirth Superman. That Rebirth Superman is very chunky. This one is a bit leaner, still very muscular, but leaner than the Rebirth Superman. And a much better counterpart to this Batman figure in terms of his size and proportions. So pretty neat. So we put these guys away. Now we're going to bring in Batman White Knight, or should I say Batman from the White Knight series of comic books, which I'm currently reading. I have the graphic novel of that series, and here is the Joker from that series. Pretty neat. That's how they scale. Much brawnier Batman, wider shoulders, bigger chest, but definitely more cartoonish looking in terms of the details of his face and his proportions. This one looks more realistic, apart from the small head. So let's put him down. Here is Joker. Well, I never realized the face looks a bit odd. Like the eyes aren't perfectly leveled. But hey, what can you do? It doesn't look as odd in person. It looks especially odd on camera. But still not too bad. Pretty good looking figure though. And it has an alternate head sculpt that I'm not going to search for, but it does have it. This Joker is shorter than Batman. Pretty neat. So let's put him away. So now let's bring in some figures from the Future State series of comic books. In this continuity / story, Bruce Wayne has lost his billions of dollars, and he is therefore a technologically limited Batman, which is why he has this makeshift get-up. And in this series / continuity, we have a proper Batman who is not Bruce Wayne, but is instead the estranged son of Lucius Fox, Timothy Jace Fox. And yeah, this is him. Because he has, presumably, I haven't read the story, presumably has the funds necessary to function as a proper Batman. He does so. So the tables have sort of turned for Bruce. Who else can I bring into the frame? Here is Superboy-Prime. Can't remember which continuity or series he's from, but there he is, Superboy-Prime. Very cool figure. Who else is there? I think that's pretty much it. I mean, I guess I could bring in this guy, but he's just so tall he doesn't even fit in the frame. Titan Joker, he's just way too tall. Titan Joker, look, can't even fit him in the frame. He's so tall. I have to angle the camera upward to get him into the frame. And there he is, Titan Joker. Way too tall. Tallest figure made by Todd McFarlane. I could be wrong, but I think that that's the case. In fact, let me remove these guys. We'll see right now. Give me a second. Okay, so here is this is Swamp Thing from Rebirth, from the Rebirth continuity. Damn, he's tall. I believe he's about the same height as Joker, but Joker is hunched over. He's sculpted that way. So if he weren't hunched over, I think he would be a bit taller than Swamp Thing. Could be wrong, though. I can't even fit these guys into the frame. They're just so tall, it's ridiculous. But yeah, that's them. Let me move these guys to the front a bit. Really just want to compare these two back here. Look at that. So they're about the same height, but the Joker is once again slouched over. He's sculpted to be that way. You can't straighten him out. You know, his knees are bent. This is as straight as they go. You can't get them any straighter. So this is his actual height in terms of how you can display him. Let's see, we also have another figure, but not from the DC Multiverse line, but by Todd McFarlane. This figure is Violator from Spawn. So there's Violator. Hopefully I can get him to stand. He's about to tip over. So here is Violator. He is a bit shorter than Joker and Swamp Thing, but there he is. Well, maybe I can bring him back in the frame a bit. I mean, can't really fit him beside them because these guys take up so much darn space. Let me take out Violator. Bring him in. You can see he's nowhere near as tall as these guys. These guys are in a league of their own. They are insanely tall. So that's it for this review. It has been quite fun, especially this last section in which we've compared all of these figures to one another. Be sure to leave some comments below, to thumb this video up, and to hit the subscribe button. Thank you for watching. Peace out.